So we just found out Tony is 195 pounds.
We just found that out?
Yeah. All right. So welcome to the Parts Avatar Podcast. We have not found a name for it. Tony wanted to call it the PAP.
He wanted to call it the PAP, and I was like, there's
Parts
no way.
Avatar Podcast. Okay?
There's no way I'm calling it that. I thought we were going to discuss why we got into cars. I think that's a little bit more interesting. All right, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I can go first. How do I got into cars? I liked cars when I was a little kid. My grandfather got me just a coloring book with like European cars. Yeah, it's the truth. And I liked it. I like coloring in it. I remember it vividly. So what?
I'm just listening to your story.
Oh, you're listening to my story. I remember it quite well. And I always liked cars. And then when I went to Europe, my cousins all had, they were in the car scene, had cool cars. One of my cousins had a plethora of cars, like Mark IVs were crazy in Poland. Obviously, it's Eastern Europe, and VWs and Mark IVs are pretty big. And what else? Yeah, I just grew up into that scene. Then I helped my dad with cars. I would try to get more into cars. I liked the tuner scene. I liked big cars. Obviously every year I went back to Poland. I got to see more of the scene. My cousins, grew up as well, had cooler cars, better cars. One of them actually ended up having a 190E that was on air suspension, and I absolutely loved it. And even the story of that car was in my family for like, three generations? Because one of my uncles owned it, moved to England, sold it to my other uncle. Then my other uncle didn't drive it. My cousin wanted it, his son. So his son bought it off his dad, and then he has it now. So it's been in the family a bit. And there's a whole story on it. So actually, I think we'll do a showcase of that car when I'm in Poland this summer.
Yeah?
I think so.
Cool.
I think so. And then I just grew up, and I was like, I like cars, and I got into it. So.
Okay.
Maybe the story's a little different for Tony, but.
Oh, 100%. I actually didn't care about cars when I was little. Funny enough, I don't remember when I saw Fast and Furious. Like, Fast and Furious isn't when I first got into cars. When I first got into cars, I was actually in college. And I got my first car straight out of, like, grade 12 plus, and paid for it myself. It was a $2,500 Chevy
Cavalier.
Was it Cavalier?
Cavalier.
I'm forgetting. I'm drawing a blank.
Cavalier,
it was a Chevy Cavalier
Z24?
Z24 edition. So it was like top of the line garbage. It was so bad. Yep. It kept going, but it was garbage. But I thought it was the coolest car.
Yeah.
And it was just because I just got a car. So in college, I worked as a pizza boy. I worked at Gino's Pizza as a pizza delivery boy. And one of my coworkers who ended up being my friend, his name was Josh, he had a beautiful Acura RSX Type S. And I thought it was just the coolest car ever. I never even knew about Acuras. I never knew about the Type S. I didn't know anything. I just thought, oh my gosh, like this guy is like a street racer or something. I had no idea that you could have a car like that be that cool. Like it looked like something that was really expensive, and I know it wasn't, but like at the time I was like, this is a luxury car. Like this guy is a street racer. And
so Tony grew up being a racer.
That's right. And I had my first ex-girlfriend got me Motegi wheels. I don't know if you know what Motegi are,
Shout
but
out,
they're
Pacific Mall.
They're so bad. They're so bad. They looked great. Like I love them, but I was still a monster truck because I didn't know what suspension was. Didn't know any of that. But so college, I found out about this RSX Type S, and then he had a bunch of friends who had their own like little car club. So one of my friends had like a Subaru WRX. Another friend had an Infiniti G35. Like, they had nice cars. Another friend had an Acura, not a Type S, but an RSX. And then there's me strutting along with this Chevy Cavalier Z24 thinking, oh my gosh, I'm part of the crew. I'm one of the street racers. And we we used to go around and just like drive around to like different locations in Hamilton all together as like a squad. And yeah, that's actually when I first got into cars. And ever since I've loved cars.
Interesting.
yeah.
So yeah, Tony got into cars a bit later. Obviously, I also had similar influences: movie Cars, Fast and Furious movies, Tokyo Drift, Too Fast, Too Furious. I think my most memorable one was Too Fast, Too Furious. Brian the Skyline. I absolutely, love that scene. I'm a big Florida boy, so I go to Florida quite often. So I jived very well of like. Every time we would go to Florida, I'd be like, oh, maybe I'll see cool cars down there. And honestly, every time I've been in Florida, it's been that way. And maybe that's why, I have such a love for Florida, because I have, good memories associated with it, like getting away from winter, seeing cool cars and things like that. So my first car was a little bit different story. I got a hand-me-down CLK 320. Hand-me-down by my neighbor, actually. I went and I was doing some yard work for him. And he had the CLK sitting outside for like 2-3 years at this point, just not moving at all. And it's been sitting in the same position. And I was saving up my money, and I actually was saving my money for an E36.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I wanted E36. At that time, they were like, sub 5K. I was hoping to like snag one for like 3K. But I asked him if he was planning to sell it, because it was, I was looking for an E36 coupe. This CLK was same generation. It was also a 2-door coupe and everything. So I was like, hey, like, what are you planning to do with this car, right? And he's like, oh, I don't know. It's got electrical issues. You've seen the rust. It has a whole bunch of stains everywhere. I don't know. I might get rid of it soon. I'm like, oh, like, how much would you want for it? And he's like, oh, I wouldn't sell it to you. It's a hunk of junk. It needs way too much money than it's worth. And he's like, why, are you trying to buy a car sometime? And I was like, yeah, I'm saving money for my first car and trying to see where it goes. And he's like, come by tomorrow with your dad. And we went over the next day, and he just signed over the ownership to me.
Oh, yeah. That's what?
Yeah, and it was a 2002 CLK 320. It had 202,000K on the body. The motor was like replaced at like 160K. No, below. Sorry, at like 60K. And I think there was like 160 on the motor or something like that, right? So it was like a 164,000 kilometer car, basically, motor-wise. And yeah, so rusty fenders, rusty quarters, rusty trunk, Starbucks everywhere, spilt inside, rear seats, front seats, and a bunch of electrical issues, which we just ended up unplugging things that we didn't need. The car had a phone in it, like the Mercedes Motorola phone in it, and that was drawing power that would like cause it to not start.
Really?
So we just unplugged the fuse, and power draw went away. And it was like little stuff like that. And honestly, it was a great car. Insurance was horrid though, because we got insurance for me.
Oh, yeah.
$5,500. Like no. It was $5,500 a year, $5,500, and that was pretty expensive, right? And I didn't really need a car.
What is that monthly? Quickly, what is that monthly?
It was around $500 a month.
Oh, buddy, I got you beat there.
Yeah,
I have you so beat. Well, because you were probably on your parents' insurance.
I was on my parents' insurance.
I was never on my parents' insurance. Yeah. I got my car straight out of McDonald's.
Yeah.
And I got it like I was working at McDonald's, and I got it paid for it myself.
Yeah.
And I got insurance. Guess how much my insurance ran me every month?
I don't know, like $600, $700.
$780 a month.
No.
It was so not worth it.
I was at the point where I like wasn't working enough at that point, right? Because I was only working the summers.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have a need for the car. So my parents are like, you know what? Like, I had it for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then we sold it basically. Like, had it on the road for 2 months basically. I had it for a year because, we did body work, we painted it, fixed up the electrical, fixed up all this stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
But I only had it on the road driving it for 2 months. And then my dad, I was like taking off the insurance off of it, and my dad was driving it for a bit while we were trying to sell it because, people wanted to take it on test drives and stuff. And then, yeah, it sold, and that's kind of it. And then after that, I just whipped around the minivan for a while. So
that's crazy. Because, I mean, the difference is, like, when I was older, because I was older and I got my car, I had to pay for everything. Like, everything. But when he got his car, he was still
Oh, I was
a
16.
child.
I
So,
was
like,
I was I was actually still I think 15 years old. I didn't have
Yeah.
my license when I got that car.
you wouldn't even been able to pay for insurance.
No, I don't think so. But
Like,
I wanted a car,
yeah.
and it ended up that way.
Well, good
right?
for you. Yeah.
So, and then I whipped around the minivan for like the longest time. But when I had my CLK, when I got that first car, I was like the first in high school to have a car.
Oh, 100%.
And I was cool for a week because a week later, I grew up in Woodbridge, so pretty posh area. Literally a week later, someone else got their license, and their dad gave him the keys to his Corvette C6 to take to school.
What?
And then another kid, because their parents were friends, bought his son a brand new M4 at
Oh.
like 16 to drive to school every day.
I still don't even have enough money to afford
No,
an M4.
and so I was cool for literally a week, and that's it, right? I thought I was the coolest kid because I was like walking around whipping my Mercedes keys around.
yeah.
And then a week later, it's like, he's got a Corvette, he's got an M4, and that's it.
The difference is
So-
he knew he wasn't cool after a week. I still was repping my Cavalier
Yeah.
Z24 in college, and I thought it was the coolest cat in the world.
Yeah.
But I didn't hear anybody making fun of me for my
No.
Cavalier.
My,
I wouldn't hear it.
My Mercedes was riced because I had chrome over fenders on it
Oh,
and
boy.
stuff like that. So, Tony, I'll send you some pictures. You can post them up here while we're talking.
Yeah. Well, I could show both of our cars actually.
Oh, do you have pictures of your
100%.
Cavalier?
It's still on my Facebook.
Oh, is it?
Oh yeah,
my
it's
gosh.
I'm posing, looking like a child in my Z24.
Like me.
It looked great though because it had the body kit, but then one winter I tried sliding it, front wheel drive car. I tried sliding it in the snow, on like a busy like one of those trail.
Yeah.
Like we had like really really hidden areas to go through with like huge hills and like houses. So I tried sliding it and went right up a hill and took out the body the body
Bumper
kit.
and everything.
Yeah, the bumper. Yeah, I put it in the trunk and then I went to the escarpment in Hamilton. I just threw it off the escarpment. It's like we're done with that.
Good riddance.
I didn't know. Like I learned everything about cars much later on through trial and error. So I probably threw away some good parts and spent a lot of money on fixes. And
I was
just,
lucky
you
where
know,
my dad was, like both his brothers are mechanics.
Yeah.
So he had mechanical knowledge. Wait, my dad was riding a motorcycle at like 13 years old, right back in Poland. So he
Whoa.
rebuilt his motor himself when he was 14, right?
Yeah.
Because he blew the motor, or like motor needed to be rebuilt. I don't think it blew. They were just shittily built back then, right?
Shittedly.
Yeah.
Shittedly.
I think you're gonna have to beep this
It's
out.
like a really smart guy, and he just made up a word. Shittily? Is that a word?
It is
There's
now.
no way that's a word.
It is. That's my catchphrase. Shittily.
Shittily.
Oh
Boy.
Poorly built.
Yeah.
And rebuilt it because he went to his brother, and his brother's like, figure it out yourself. So, or my dad, they built like go-karts at home with like engines from those tiny little motorcycles. Like I remember one story my dad was telling me. He's like, when they built that little go-kart, they messed up something in the steering. So when you turn right, it would turn left, and when you turn left, it would turn right.
There you
go. So
what
yeah.
would that be? Do you know what that would be?
On the steering column, I think one of the U-joints was backwards or something.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
But it was very simplistic, steering, right? It was a go-kart.
Just turn it the other way.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, all right. Well, Alex and Tony signing off. We'll see you in the next episode.
Could you say that a little quieter, please?
Alex and Tony are now signing off, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed our first podcast.
Rambling.
It's rambling. There was no information to actually remember.
No.
But yeah, there'll be more.
We'll have some special guests. I wonder if every time I touch this... Oh, it really... Oh, okay, I see.
All right, that's it. Thanks.
Peace out.
Remember, Parts Avatar has got your back, so don't forget to subscribe to the Parts Avatar channel so you don't miss any of these exciting videos.